Filmmaking is without a doubt really dependent on good lighting, and there are plenty of situations where you can benefit from great natural light. For instance, when shooting during golden or blue hour, these times of the day will give you some warm and really soft light, resulting in a pleasing look in your videos. But of course we all want to enhance our films by using different lighting scenarios, and sometimes this means shooting in low light, which can be pretty hard, to be honest. So today I want to share with you a few tips and thoughts on shooting in low light and what you can do to get better results and a natural look for your videos. By the way, if you're new to the channel, my name is Tom Streller. I'm a filmmaker, and on this channel I cover everything filmmaking related. So if you're into this, make sure to subscribe to not miss any upcoming videos. I guarantee you won't regret it. So over the last year I found myself in several situations where I had to shoot in low light. But over time I developed my own way for nailing these shots without having to worry about it. And the first thing I want to talk about, even though it's pretty obvious, is to use a flat picture profile, which gives you more dynamic range than a standard picture profile. This actually goes without saying, but it doesn't hurt to mention it again. You don't always have to shoot in log. A cine-like picture profile or something like HLG on the newer Sony cameras totally does the job. But definitely avoid shooting in standard picture profiles, since they give you less flexibility in post and leave you with a more contrasty and saturated image. And in regards of the natural look, definitely don't try to make the dark look like daylight. Since I see a lot of young filmmakers on YouTube, I really feel the need to stress this again. Some people shoot in low light scenarios and then try to boost their camera to the max to make it look as if it was a bright scene, just because maybe their camera is capable of good low light performance. I highly encourage you to always aim for a natural look, which means that if a scene is pretty dark, it is what it is. If you need to make a subject more visible in your scene, there are plenty of ways to do this without having to increase your ISO. For instance, try to find some lights in your scene and then place your subject closer to these lights. This could be neon lights, a street lamp, or you could even bring a small extra light like the Aperture M9 to give your subject more light. But always keep in mind to not just increase your ISO. If the lighting in your scene is bad, it will probably still look bad even if you make it look bright. And it will also just look unnatural. Try to incorporate existing light and get creative with that, because you also don't always have to put the light in front of your subject. Maybe just put it behind. For low light scenes, it can also work pretty well to use silhouettes to light a subject instead your regular front lighting. Silhouettes will create an interesting look and can really enhance your video's mood. Plus, lighting a subject like this is way easier and faster, and you can get really creative with that. But of course there will even be scenes where you don't have any control over the light nor your subject, and that is why the most important thing I personally learned when it comes to exposing a shot is to trust my own eyes. For instance, when you shoot something like a concert or another scene with some difficult changing light, it can be hard to expose the shot using the regular tools on your camera, simply because the light is always changing. Like for a concert, the audience is normally pretty dark, but the stage is lit by strobe lights, which are incredibly bright. So how should you approach such a scene? I feel like it's just a matter of practice to get a feeling for how to dial in settings to get the light as natural as you can. When something in your shot is really dark, don't always try to bring it up by boosting your ISO. This will only result in an unnatural look and make it more difficult for you to compensate for a change to bright light. And speaking of that, if something like a concert is really bright for a moment, but you feel like that is just how it is lit, then don't try to bring down your exposure just to compensate for a short flash of lights. In my opinion, it's often easier, especially after gaining some experience and confidence, to just trust your eyes when it comes to exposing a difficult scene. Also make sure to always check your screen for flickering lights in the scene. This can happen when a place uses some older lights with a different frequency than your camera, which will result in a flicker effect in your video. You can get rid of this in post, at least sometimes, but it requires some extra work and often an expensive plugin, so it's definitely better to get it right in camera. When you see lights flicker on your screen, this means that your shutter speed is too high. Mostly you will have to leave it at 50 or 60 to get rid of the flickering, which means that you cannot shoot slow motion. And this sucks, I know. I had to deal with this myself when I shot a concert and the venue used some really old lighting technique. But there's no real way around it if you cannot switch off the lights, so always check your screen for flickering lights, and if you see them, turn down your shutter speed. Another important thing when it comes to shooting low light scenes is the white balance, and I personally struggled with this a lot of times, but then I just settled on an easy workaround. So when I work with LED lights like my own here on YouTube videos or on set, I definitely set the white balance according to these lights because they are a bit different to daylight, and if I have control over the lighting, I definitely want it to look perfect. But when I'm out shooting, let's say concert or another scene with mixed lighting, I normally set my white balance to regular daylight. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Since the lighting is often colorful and changes all the time, it is quite hard to dial in the values for real white. So daylight white balance will give you just a good base to work with, at least that is what I found out. Other white balance settings for artificial light are often way too off from a natural look, and the most I had to do when shooting with daylight setting is to make it all look a bit colder in post. No real color tint, nothing crazy. It's definitely not perfect, but it will never be if you don't have control over the lighting. So all you can do is deal with it and get the best out of the situation, and for me this definitely worked the best. So these are my simple techniques for getting better results when shooting low light scenes, and I hope you guys found this video helpful. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more filmmaking related videos like this one, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.